Guys of a Certain Age is brought to you by no one. Absolutely no one. Except these dudes walking down memory lane. Now let's head to the studio to see what they misremember next.
It's the podcast that's hotter than a Thursday in June in Mississippi. It's Guys of a Certain Age. Robbie Koblenz in studio alongside
Art Shirley.
And O.J. Reed.
O.J. Reed.
Or should we start calling it what? Baba.
Baba O'Reilly.
Baba O'Reed.
Baba O'Reed.
Yeah. Grandpa Wasteland. That's what it should be.
It's only Grandpa Wasteland.
That's it. We need to cut that.
We need to do a whole parody song on
that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Baba. Yeah, reference to Jay's grandchild.
Yeah,
which
we're not just calling him Baba all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's his selected grandpa name. Not like Jay had anything to do with the grandchild other than
I do find myself saying, a friend of mine just had a grandchild, as if they had the grandchild.
Yeah, isn't that funny how that happens?
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes more of a focus point for the grandparents sometimes. So
yeah, true that.
Yeah, but I think I'll see Jay tomorrow. We'll pick up an episode there. But
okay.
Let's jump into some Geeks of the Week.
Okay.
What do you have?
Sebastian Stan. You probably saw this already. This is just something that came out. It's not necessarily earth-shattering, but he's telling folks now that when he was first approached to join the MCU as Bucky, that they said that he would probably become Captain America at some point.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah. So, and he didn't. He said things just change, and the story evolved. So there were no hard feelings on his part that he wasn't. And I think they did the right thing. And I know Bucky becomes Captain America at some point. I think he does anyway. I don't remember. But Sam Wilson is the one that I think of as the one that took over the mantle for him. And so that's comic book accurate as far as I'm concerned. And, that Falcon becomes Captain America.
And I love what they've done with Bucky / Winter Soldier.
See, I think that's a better character for him to play too.
Absolutely.
It's much more interesting character. And I think what they're doing with all the Captain America dynamic with Wyatt Russell playing
U.S. agent.
Yeah. That's worked out. He was supposed to be the villain in Thunderbolts, and it turns out that people kind of like him as this, what do they call it? Like the Timu Captain America or something like that. Or
I had never heard that.
Yeah, there's something in there. There's a line in the thing that says, "That's not." It's not. Is it Wish, Captain America, or something?
I don't remember.
Anyway, whatever it is, but yeah. So it's. I think Julie Louis-Dreyfus' character calls him that at some point, but maybe. Florence Pugh's character does.
I love it, harkening back to Thunderbolts, Asterisk, or the New Avengers, how, as Bucky comes on into the movie, Red Guardian is just like fanboying out.
Yeah.
Those dynamics are great.
Yeah,
so,
and it's good. I think his character probably can do a little more as Winter Soldier, as opposed to being a Captain America. Yeah. And I think that with Sam Wilson as Captain America, they can do some more with that. With Brave New World, I watched that again the other night, and
Brave Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, we've talked about the problems with that, and we'll probably talk about it when we get to the other side because I've got some things to say about that. But it's I think that I still like Anthony Mackie first of all, and then Sam Wilson as the heir to the Captain America shield.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I still want Sebastian Stan to be a Luke Skywalker at some point, though.
Did you see where Mark Hamill said,
that,
I'm done with it. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I'm done, so, which I understand. There's this hair on my microphone I keep trying to find. Can I get it? Depth perception.
Especially, in a darkened room trying to see something against a black windscreen.
Yeah, plus, it's within the field of,
the way
of vision.
It's hard to see, yeah.
So, but Hamill said he's kind of done. But I would love to see Sebastian.
I would too. Now, somebody, thought maybe a series where it's Mark Hamill as Luke telling stories, and they kind of did this with young Indiana Jones to a degree, and then it's the adventures of him, in the period between, after the first trilogy and before the sequel trilogy, and have a guy that's actually going on some Jedi type adventures, before he becomes this old disgruntled guy.
Yeah, I think bringing him into Ahsoka season 2 might be kind of good too.
Yeah.
So, but we'll
couple
see.
of cameos, but I agree. I think they ought to recast that whole Han, Luke and Leia.
Yeah,
group.
Absolutely. Speaking of the Marvel Universe, did you see that AMC has announced that?
I did see that.
Jay, this is for you, buddy. You can eat popcorn out of Galactus's big old head.
Oh no, I thought there was another AMC announcement.
No, they're doing a popcorn bucket that's Galactus's head.
Oh my gosh!
Which it looks. I'm gonna point around.
Wow,
yeah,
that is too funny.
We probably need
that'll be for Fantastic Four.
Yeah, probably need to go find an AMC somewhere.
Yeah.
He might have seen it already. So there's a Herbie concession vessel that includes large popcorn, large drinking candy, plus a place to store it all. There are character popcorn tins. There's character totem cups. There's the Galactus popcorn vessel. We may have to go find an AMC.
Where's the closest one?
I don't know.
There's some in Jackson or Memphis.
I don't know, but I went to one down in Mobile. That was great.
I think that's the one. That's the one I've been to.
Let's look for Mississippi. But
the AMC other announcement they made is that they're going to be increasing the ads that run before the movies. They may be one of the last theaters that really haven't had a whole lot of ads. Now you go, and it's a good 30 minutes before the movie actually starts.
Yeah.
And you're not watching previews, which I don't mind watching previews at all. But the local ads that you would see on your television, if you're still getting ads through your streaming services or still watching broadcast TV,
it's kind of ridiculous almost.
Well, and the thing is, it's what the writer of the article was saying is in a time when they're trying to lure people away from just watching it at home, that's not the way to do it.
No, it's not.
Mm-hmm. Of course, what people will do is they'll wait. If the movie's scheduled to start at 7, you'll just go at 7:20 to make sure you miss as many as you can.
The AMC we went to down in Mobile had assigned seats, which I love.
I like that too. Yeah,
I like that quite a bit. I love the idea.
That's why we go to Tupelo for that.
So, yeah, they have assigned seats. It's not AMC in Tupelo, is it? No.
It's Cinemark and a Malco.
Yeah.
Both of those have the reclining assigned seats.
Yeah, which are great. So, I've got another geek. We haven't talked about the Stranger Things announcement of how they're debuting and divvying up the last 8 episodes. Have we?
No, I've seen it. I don't think we've talked about it.
So they're going to drop the first 4 episodes on November 26th, the next 3 on December 25th, and the final will premiere on December 31. So it's 8 episodes to finish out the Stranger Things saga. They're kind of milking it for all it's worth.
Yeah.
I think the kids are going to be going into the retirement home at the end.
There's a lot of most everything you see on Reels is people being turned into babies right now. Except for Stranger Things, they're turning those kids into old folks. It's like here they are on the set of Stranger Things.
I may have to rewatch Stranger Things just to get back into it. And I kind of wish I would have done that with Severance since there was such a long gap between season 1 and season 2.
Yeah,
but I'm kind of looking forward to that.
There was one season I remember that. It was kind of felt like a filler season, and I can't remember what season is this.
This is fifth
season.
Yes.
I think maybe the 3rd season, maybe the 2nd one. But yeah, especially that first season, and then the past season was kind of crazy. I think that'd be another one good one worth watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else I saw that came across my feeds this morning. You remember Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville?
Lex Luthor.
Luthor. So he and James Gunn are really tied, and I didn't realize that. So how James Gunn loves to put his friends in his movies. So apparently there is a voice that Rosenbaum voiced for the Superman movie.
Really?
Don't know what it is.
The Flash?
No idea, but. It should be really, really cool. I still think he's probably my favorite Lex Luthor.
I didn't watch him enough, but seeing him, I mean, he's really, really good. And I wish he had, I mean, I think Nicholas Hoult, who's playing him in the movie, looks really good.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to have seen him get and I know they don't want to make the move from whoever played him in TV, play him, in the movies, but he would have been good, and probably would have, I think, had he had that opportunity, would have been the definitive Lex Luthor. I mean, like you said, people believe he is already, but I think that would have won anybody that said, "Oh, you got to be in a movie to be the definitive." I think he would have been it.
Well, he played the character longer than anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, he played it for 7 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
And I like Rosenbaum. Do you listen to his podcast?
I don't. I'll see snippets of it from in reels from Instagram or whatever. And it always looks interesting to me.
Yeah.
So
he's done a really good job with it.
And he'll have some really good guests on there, and they'll talk about some stuff that, I'd be interested in. Do you listen to it?
It depends on guest, and it kind of falls down my list, and I need to go back and say, oh, all right, who does he have?
Yeah.
Because he's a great podcast. I think he's better than Joe Rogan. So, Joe Rogan, man, wow. Yeah. Okay. So why couldn't we?
News radio.
What's that?
News radio.
Yeah.
First time I saw Joe Rogan.
Yeah. See, I forget that he was an actor.
An actor first. Yeah. Well, actually, it may have been the Man Show the first time I saw him. He and Jimmy Kimmel were on the Man Show together. No, that's not. I'm sorry.
That's Adam Carolla.
Adam Carolla. That's right. Yeah.
Because I remember the Man Show.
Yeah.
I remember Jimmy Kimmel from Win Ben Stein's Money.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, that was his first.
We knew him when.
Yeah, that was his first. Man, I would love to see that show in reruns.
Mm-hmm.
When
you could find it on YouTube.
You probably can.
Yeah.
But it's one of the greatest, game shows of all time, and it's just so that and Remote Control are probably my two favorite.
Yeah,
it's just low budget enough to be fun.
Yeah,
so, but anyway,
it gets sense of humor about both of them.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of, we're going to talk a little bit of Doctor Who towards the end. I mean, and just kind of respect the audience rants. It's going to be a couple old guys.
That's what we did last time we were
raising their fist at the clouds. But Doctor Who Season 2, which, this is the Disney Plus season, has concluded. And spoiler alert, Ncuti Gatwa has regenerated after only 16 episodes in the TARDIS. And Billie Piper, who played Rose Tyler with the Ninth Doctor and 10th Doctor, he regenerated into her.
Yeah.
It's the most bizarre thing. I'm going to rant about that a little bit later. But, we
don't know if this is a permanent thing or just like a stunt thing at this point, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. But the thing that I'm going to lead into is, so Disney announced layoffs this week.
Oh, yeah. Huge layoffs.
Yeah. And so Disney continues to prune their creative house. Mm-hmm. And the content that is being produced has got to throttle back because there's so much stuff out there. I mean, Apple TV Plus is spending millions a day on producing stuff. They're losing money left and right. Netflix seems to have stabilized, but Netflix has gotten to the live show, arena, doing sports and whatnot.
Yeah, they sure have.
Prime announced that they canceled Wheel of Time.
Yeah, saw that. After 2 seasons or 3 seasons?
And the third season was great.
Yeah.
I mean, they finally got back on track. So folks are getting stuff canceled left and right. Mm-hmm. At what point does it end? The recession of stories, I guess, has begun. So, I don't know. Is there anything that's been canceled that you're like, man, I wish I could have seen Resolution 2? Any series, anything that's come across?
Nothing that comes to mind. There's some things that things I thought I might start. And again, I'm drawing a blank on what they are, and then heard they were canceled.
Yeah.
And so, I'm thinking, well, do I want to go ahead and watch that or not? How does it end? Does it end in something that would be satisfactory, or is it a cliffhanger that's never going to be resolved?
Yeah. I never finished Lost in Space. I think they resolved.
Oh, really? Yeah.
They resolved.
Yeah, that has a resolution at the end.
Yeah, I need to go back and finish that out.
Yeah,
just kind of lost interest.
Well, it kind of the first season was fun and interesting and stuff and novel, but even though it's a ripoff, even though it's not a ripoff, but a remake.
Yeah.
But then there was a period of time between seasons, and then I think they ultimately did 3 seasons.
I think so.
The second season kind of floundered.
Yeah.
The third season took place so much after the second season that Will Robinson had grown up and was practically taller than the robot and stuff. But the resolution it works out well.
We call it the Stranger Things effect.
Yeah, that's right. The Stranger Things effect.
Did you remember Altered Carbon?
That may be the one. That's the one I'm thinking about because they've just canceled that.
Well, they'd canceled it a couple of years ago. They only did 2 seasons of Altered
I thought they had brought it back and we're not doing okay. But no, I haven't watched it.
Season 1 and season 2, they're great.
Very different seasons though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, almost like different shows.
Yeah. I read the book.
Yeah.
The books are great. So,
Yeah, we're talking about Foundation at Work today. Yeah.
Well, it's coming out soon.
Okay. So this is the 3rd season of that?
It's just the 3rd or 4th. Yeah, it's the 3rd season.
Okay.
So Lee Pace is
who's the name we were trying to remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and I, started it and was so different from the book. I had trouble connecting it. And I think I don't have Apple TV right now, but I know we've planned on getting it before again. Probably I may try to give that another watch.
I'm going to tell you, John Hamm, Friends and Neighbors.
They're good.
Fabulous.
Okay.
It's if Don Draper grew up and was in modern day, what would happen? And
who else is in that?
Olivia Munn.
Oh yeah, okay.
And there's several names in it. Let's see if I can find it up. What's her face? No, not Friends Cast. Friends and Neighbors. She was the studio executive in Studio 60. Amanda Peet.
Oh, yeah, I like her too.
Yeah.
And she hadn't done anything for a while, it seems like.
No, I guess she hasn't.
Yeah.
She's great. I mean, she's absolutely great. I would highly recommend. Okay. It's a 9-episode watch.
Okay.
So it goes pretty quick. I think Becky would like it.
Is it a limited series or is it ongoing?
Oh, no, there's going to be a season 2.
Gotcha.
They announced a season 2.
Yeah, we'll check it out.
But remember, what was it, 3 years ago, John Hamm did the commercial about, hey, Apple, I'm ready for my series. Yeah. Everybody else has got something.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. So he finally got his series.
Finally got a series. Okay, good deal.
So, all right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to rant about respecting the audience, which is something we try to do.
Okay. We respect the audience more so than we respect Jay.
That's right.
Or Jay.
Up next.
Baba.
We're back. We're still jayless, but we're going to talk about respecting the audience. And Art and I go to lunch, and so I start ranting about Doctor Who. Let me just rant about Doctor Who for a couple of minutes. We can bring it back around.
Okay.
So 2.5 years ago, 3.5 years ago, this landmark deal with Disney Plus investing millions into Doctor Who and in co-ownership with the BBC. Doctor Who would be seen in the United Kingdom on the BBC iPlayer, which is their, e-player sort of thing that they've got. The rest of the world, it's Disney Plus. Disney dropped money in. They upped the production value. They cast Judy Gatwa as the Doctor. They brought back Russell T Davies, and it's like, okay, we're going to go and we're going to do great, great things. So we do season 1 last year, and it's okay at best. It's uneven. There are Russell T Davies likes to put threads throughout and try to tie them up, and he didn't tie them up very well. So there's season 2, which just finished up last week, and I'm going to bring up that cast list. And they had cast. Hold on, let me find it. I can never remember her name. She.
Just one of the companions?
Yeah. Her name is Belinda Chandra. She is played by Veranda Sethu, who we know from Andor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was Val's love interest in Andor.
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha.
So, I mean, her geek index is fairly high right
I imagine
now.
so.
Just great actress.
Yeah.
Did a great job. And again, the season was very uneven.
Mm-hmm. Do they still have 2 companions?
No, it was just one companion. And so...
Did they do 2 the first season?
Sometimes they'll do 2. Sometimes they'll do 1. Yeah. They've done 3 before. It just kind of depends. Anyway, you get to episode 8, the finale. They wrap it up hurriedly. They had brought back spoilers, they brought back a classic villain, the Ranny, who is a fabulous villain. She's a Time Lord. What
was the name again?
The Ranny.
The Ranny. Okay.
R-A-N-I. You had the Doctor, the Master, and the Ranny.
Okay.
So, and you've got clues dropped throughout both seasons.
Yeah.
And, so they reveal her. It's great. Then they do this kind of retcon sort of everybody wakes up in a dream sort of state. The Doctor, his name is John Smith. He's married to Belinda Chandra, his companion. They have a kid named Poppy.
Wow.
And it's this whole dream world sort of forced reality that Randy has imposed upon the Earth in order to bring back Omega, who is one of the first Time Lords who's been, and this Omega is from the classic series. He'd been banished to the underworld, and she's trying to bring him back to rekindle the Time Lords because they've been wiped out. And so you get to all this. Omega is on screen for like 4 minutes. He's one of the biggest bads in Doctor Who history.
Yeah.
Completely waste him. Then they do this retcon thing where Belinda Chandra, who was this great companion, is trying to get home because she has a daughter named Poppy, which happened in this dream world. And then Gatwa decides, in order to save Poppy, because Poppy didn't exist, but Poppy needs to come back from the reality, he needs to regenerate and force his regeneration into the time vortex to reset reality. And then he regenerates into Billie Piper, who played Rose Tyler. And you have...
Is that the last scene? Is that what we've seen?
Yeah. Okay. She's like, oh, hello there. And you have Jodie Whittaker showing up as the 13th Doctor, with this nice little, interplay between Whittaker and Gatwa. And it just was stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it, it's just dumb. The writing's weak.
Yeah.
And, the story behind supposedly is there was not a commitment for season 3. Gatwa's star is rising. I mean, he was in the Barbie movie. He was the breakout star of Sex Education. He's got stuff happening. He's probably going to end up in Hollywood. He's got a charisma about him. He's a great actor.
Yeah.
And he couldn't wait on Doctor Who. And so they had foreshadowed the Doctor's granddaughter from the initial season in 1963-64. They brought that actress back to do a couple little flashback, and it never paid off.
Yeah.
So the thought was that they came in and they had to reshoot the ending of the episode because Gatwa has left, and it's just a mess, and it all kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Respect the audience.
That's what we came about during our lunch yesterday. Is that this kind of several different franchises that have lost this idea of respecting the audience and thinking that fan service, which is what they sounds like they did here, is enough. And really, what the fans want is something that's written well and true to the character. We talked a little bit about Doctor Who, and granted, there have been multiple actors playing the Doctor at this point, and you mentioned how you like somebody with gravitas, and that's really been kind of lacking. Capaldi, you said, had it, but even though you have different representations of the Doctor, there are certain, I started to say, tenets that remain true about that character, the character of the Doctor, regardless of who's playing him, and you want there to be something. But even in the midst of all the terrible effects and stuff, you still had some compelling stories. You still had some good stories. And it seems like, and this is not true of just Doctor Who, that's what we're talking about, is that so many of these franchises think we can skimp on the story.
Yep.
Not realizing that fans, still want a story.
Yeah.
They still want a story, and the story needs to be true to the spirit of whatever character or group of characters they're telling.
Absolutely. The Doctor Who started as a kids educational TV show of this older scientist who was this alien who was not human.
Yeah.
Didn't have the emotions, was teaching kids history as he travels back in time. Now it's evolved way beyond that. But I was reading The Guardian yesterday, some of the reactions to the season of the Doctor, of Doctor Who, saying, well, they need to reset it, let it sit for 2-3 years, and bring it back, and better stories. And we don't need a sexy doctor. We don't need a doctor with a love interest with companions or anyone else.
Right.
We went down that whole River Song thing, which was fine for what it was.
Yeah. Well, at that point, it was kind of it was a new thing. So it was kind of and it was well thought out. And River Song was an interesting character who was interesting not just because that she and the Doctor had a relationship. She brought her own thing to that. So the character of River Song was just an interesting. That whole thing was interesting.
That's right.
But, and again, this happens franchise after franchise. This works, so we must copy this.
Yeah.
They don't get what worked about it. They don't get what worked about that particular story, and so they think, okay, we'll just do. It's like every time you see, Superman or Batman's a popular character, let's create another Superman or Batman, and that realizing they've got to do the work. You've got to make the story.
Well, and back to the thing with Doctor Who, you've had companions have crushes, wait on the Doctor and all that, and he doesn't pay any attention, right? I think back to Moonlighting. What a great show with Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis, and it was fabulous. Until
they put them together.
They put them together, and you lost the chemistry.
Cheers with Sam and Diane, same thing.
Well, Castle as well. And
the only one that I've seen it argued back and forth whether it worked or not was Pam and Jim on The Office. They really kind of made that work.
You know what? You're right.
But that's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, the companion to me always serves best if they're representing us. They're the person constantly blown away by what's going on, with the Doctor, what the Doctor's world is like or universe is like, because really that's the case. So they should always have that, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening kind of thing. And give the Doctor a bit of a human connection. But the Doctor is not human and never.
That's right.
Always needs to be other than.
Well, and so Doctor Who, which we've ranted about for a while, is one example. Star Trek Discovery is another.
Yeah.
I mean,
they just from the first time I saw the Klingons and the way they portrayed the Klingons, I said they don't get Star Trek. They don't understand. And there was a lot of good stuff about Star Trek Discovery. The brilliant actors. There was some fine writing in it. But it didn't feel like Star Trek. And Star Trek can be a whole lot of different things. We've seen that. But I think that's why Brave New Worlds, Strange New Worlds works so well, is because you gave us something that we're somewhat familiar with. These characters we think we know, but you've made interesting characters out of all of them, and then you've told really compelling stories with them. So it's something we're familiar with. There's fan service in that, but it's not strictly fan service. They're willing to develop these stories and give us some things that are familiar, but stand on their own. And I think that works really well. And one of the things I was most nervous about was them starting to bring more and more characters in from the original series. We had Uhura at first, and then we added Captain Kirk.
And then Scotty.
Now, And you go, okay, is this? But every time they brought somebody in, they've made it work. And I really didn't think they were going to do that with Kirk. I thought that was not going to work. But they've given him enough of his personality, but also presenting him as a pre-Kirk, a predecessor to what we got to know. So they've made him interesting.
Well, Nurse Chapel,
that's one of my favorite characters on the show, and she was not on the original series. I mean, she was always just kind of an extra on the original series, and just happened to be married to Gene Roddenberry. Happened to be
Mandel Barrett, and then she became the voice of the computer,
and then also Troy's mother. You know.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so
that's right.
But and great actress, but she just never didn't have a big role. But she's a crucial part of Strange New Worlds.
So, would you support a Star Trek original series remake with these characters?
Yeah, I could see that happen. I mean, we kind of had that already with the Chris Pine and you know, I can't. What do they call that universe?
That's the Kelvin timeline.
Kelvin timeline. Yeah. So we've seen that, and I was supportive of that. I would support something that was, you know, that took this Strange New Worlds approach and brought it into, you know, the crew that we know. I think you could do that. And again, if the storytelling's there.
There were, 76 original episodes?
Yeah, 75, 76, yeah, something like that.
So if you picked 25 to 30, 20, 25 TOS stories.
Yeah, find the stories that are, you know, worked with that, because a lot of them are dated.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are not. The concepts are really good.
Yeah.
And so take those and turn those into, you know, 3 seasons of
and then flesh them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be
so
great.
too. And don't feel to me it's very similar to what they did with the Sherlock series with Benedict Cumberbatch. You know, they took Holmes short stories that we knew and put a modern spin on them, and didn't bother or didn't worry about telling the story exactly the same way. So, you know, you had little twists on the stories, but it made, to me, and I know not everybody liked Sherlock, but I loved it. And I thought that they did a great job of modernizing that, and also giving us something that was familiar, but different enough that, you know, it was, and because the stories were so good. And granted, first season was brilliant, second season was good, third season was not as good.
Yeah.
You know, but that's kind of the way those things happen.
Yeah.
I think another one of not respecting the audience is strange. What is it? The Invasion? What was the one with? What's the one with Samuel L. Jackson? The series.
Oh, Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion. Yeah.
Absolutely, Marvel Secret Invasion.
Yeah. You've probably seen the memes that I've seen too after Andor, which I think was a brilliant, you know, way to satisfy fans and create new fans. You know, Ben Mendelsohn's in both that and Secret Invasion.
That's
and so
right.
this is how you use Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. They have this history of taking actors, just kind of as you were talking about Doctor Who, you know, this thing that ought to be kind of a big thing. If you're going to bring this person or this character in, don't just give them like a, you know, nod and disrespect them that way. Make them, you know, part of the story that's going on. And boy, Secret Invasion is probably the worst about doing that, because you know, Eternals is a bad movie, but I wasn't familiar with those characters, so I didn't have that ownership.
Yeah.
But you know what they did with Secret Invasion and just completely kind of neutering Nick Fury.
Boy, talk about the retcon of all retcons.
Yeah,
it was horrible.
Yeah, it was just not good. And again, it's something that they think this is going to work, and maybe it would have if the storytelling was better. But it's like they didn't have a story there.
Yeah. They didn't care.
And I think we talked too about the Star Wars sequels, and we've talked about that plenty of times. But again, it's not. There wasn't a plan. A lot of fan service, you know, basically let's, you know, blow up the Death Star planet this time instead of just the Death Star thing. And you know, we'll do this. And it just didn't work because there were good story ideas there, but they were just not really fully realized.
Sometimes budget constraints are a good thing because they force you to tighten the story.
Yeah.
Develop the characters and think through what you're going to do, and just not throw a bunch of CGI at it.
That's right. And you see that all the time. If somebody's we've got this budget, we have to make the best story we can with this budget. And otherwise you're just like, we've got to spend the money. I mean, that's what, as we go work through budget constraints. My thing is the best part about, you know, a small budget is it forces you to focus on what you do.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. I think in movie making can be a really good thing. Robert Rodriguez still is one of those that made great movies, when he had small budgets and really kind of started making worse movies when he got some money.
Yeah, exactly. So. But, also with more money you have more people to have to satisfy up the line.
That's right. That's right.
Have you watched The Studio yet? No, you haven't on Apple TV Plus.
No, I think that may be the thing that
it's hilarious.
That needs to get me back on Apple TV. Sorry,
it's great.
Yeah,
and apparently it is pretty accurate. Studio is pretty Hollywood accurate.
Yeah,
and I mean that's one of the things I make fun of. I mean, No spoiler, but I mean, because there's not really anything dramatic in it. It's more slice of life. But what's his face? Seth Rogen. Is he any relation? He's no relation to Joe Rogan.
No,
yeah,
I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so. Seth Rogen plays the head of Continental Pictures, and they're just lusting after the Barbie movie. So they'll go out and they get the Kool-Aid Man intellectual property, and they're doing a Kool-Aid Man movie, and just what's involved and who you've got to satisfy and this, that. It's hilarious. Yeah. It's absolutely hilarious.
Is that all streaming now? Is every episode?
Yeah, every episode. Yeah. And you'll fly through them. And it's a bunch of oneers. But again, I mean, I don't know.
The story, if it's stories,
it's about story.
Yeah.
And it's not about explosions and CGI. Fan service is fine when it's used to advance the story. I'm wanting Doctor Who to reset.
Yeah.
And I just don't know that I will watch another season of Doctor Who.
Yeah. And again, I think you're the point of, the budget. If you go lean and concentrate, okay, well, what do we got to do? You got to get the story right first, and so do that. Maybe that's what will happen. Maybe that's what they'll say, okay, this didn't work. What do we need to do and you go back to telling a good story. That's what helped with when the series resurrected with Christopher Eccleston and then David Tennant right after that, is that they were telling good stories and surprising people because they had better production values. But what made it successful, what made the reboot work, was that the stories were good.
Yeah.
So I think that's and they had great actors, they had talented folks. I think they've still got that, and that's what, like I said, when we talked about Mendelssohn, it's so bad when you waste that talent that you've got, and you go, God, this really could have. You had all these people this could have been a really good movie.
Yeah.
I was going to mention Brave New World War time. That we've talked about that. That should have been just a really, really good movie. Had all the pieces there that need to put together for that, but it just didn't. I mean, it had a good story in there. They tried to add too much. We've talked about this before. They should not have had. They could have had Harrison Ford in there as Thunderbolt Ross, and teased the fact that he was going to become the Red Hulk in the next movie, but he's just kind of added as an afterthought to me as the Red Hulk. And they should have made the leader the main villain and had him much more out of the shadows than they did. I mean, if you go back, like I said, I went back and watched it, and you went, this is just really bizarre how they're portrayed. And they had Giancarlo Esposito in the movie.
Yeah.
In the movie, and he plays a glorified hitman. I'm thinking he should have been your big bad.
I tell you, yeah, exactly. I don't know. Yeah, I'm hopeful with Fantastic Four. It's going to reset. Now, if Fantastic Four sucks, I give up.
Yeah, that's going to be bad. Superman, I'm looking forward to that. I think that's got some good, possibilities of being good anyway. But those two movies will kind of define, I think, what happens going forward. If Fantastic Four is not good, that could be that could be troublesome for Marvel.
It really could. It absolutely. There's a lot of hopes pinning on that. So if it's not good, it's going to be clobbering time.
That's right.
Have you seen the theory? There's all kinds of fan theories that Reed Richards is the only person who survives.
Yeah. And that the other three are gone. And then I've heard that, spoiler alert again for Thunderbolts / New Avengers.
Of course, we've already done our react on that.
Yeah, that's right. So we were good on that. But the Fantastic spaceship that you see coming in, Fantastic Four spaceship, may just have Doctor Doom in it, and not even any of the Fantastic Four people in it.
Oh wow.
So so that's interesting. But I've seen that same thing, and but it's Reed that survives.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll they'll keep the rest of them.
You would think, but who knows? You know, I mean, I'm looking forward to it, and I hope I'm not disappointed.
Yeah, me too.
So, all right, we're going to sign off. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time around.